Okay, theoretically that works. Now we find out whether or not things are going to happen properly. Not expecting a whole lot today, didn't do any advertising at all, so we will see what happens. And that's what we needed to pop that open. Okay, that puts us in the office, which is good. This is absolutely amazing. A non-existent camera actually, well, there. This is absolutely amazing. A non-existent camera actually. Oh, don't want to do that. Oh, that is what I want to do. Okay. There. It's got a little bit of feedback, but live with it. Well, we are active, but talk about a sheep show where it comes to technology today. You know, I keep telling people technology and I do not get along well, and it gets proven more often than I care to count. Lazarus, how are you doing? Tell you, it is absolute scramble job today. Technology has argued left, right, and center with me. So, curiosity for you, since you're the only one in the building right now, is my voice coming across tinny at this point? If you'd be kind enough to let me know, that would be appreciated. You know, the unfortunate part is there's not going to be much I can do about it anyway with the way the technology is working. But, oh, good, thank you. Appreciate the info on the sound. Not good that you're dizzy. My first instinct when I look at dizzy is I check my salt levels. And I get vertigo a lot. I need that locked on. No, the neat little problem I've been having, and that's getting to be distracting. So I keep looking over where I've got my own video. And I should probably, yeah, that's there so I can actually read it. Oh, okay, water answers the cure to that. Or you can do like I did, and this is a bad idea. I spent some time really heavily drinking, and the cure I found for a hangover was you never sobered up. Solved me a lot of problems in a lot of ways. That's white coffee. Yeah, no doubt. I even know some people toss a little bit of salt into their coffee to cut down on the acid levels. But no, I've been trying to figure out. Well, aside from frustrated with technology beyond belief, I'm actually not doing too terribly bad. Had to come to a conclusion with certain things. Like I found the common denominator as to why society is buckling and what we can actually do about it. But it is going to require people doing something about it, which, frankly, the majority of people seem rather hesitant to do. And that is, we've got to start looking at two factors. Look at the front end of what's going on. You know, look at the front of what we're up to. And, you know, from there, what did I do? Shut down Facebook? You know, from there, we've got to start concentrating on where we can shift things. You know, from a positive standpoint, instead of focusing on all the negative things. Oh, that's because it was on my email at the front end. if we close that down, what do we got? No, we were just, when we first logged into email, we found out that there are things that are being posted that you look at them going, why, pray tell, is that headline news? Why not look at the present? There's an email. Let me just log in on it, or not log in, but open another tab here. The one thing about having multiple monitors that I do like is I can look at the different sites all at the same time. Now, where did they have it here? And of course, now they don't have it. So when I logged in earlier, what had happened was it showed, on one hand, it shows here we are. On the one hand, it shows a post that says, new documentary paints Diana as a virtual monster, as in Princess Diana. Now, realistically, she's been dead for how long? And they're still digging that up. Now, there was another post, another news report that I saw that was like four reports down the road that went, a stranger gives a woman and her family a ride from Seattle to Vancouver to catch a cruise after Air Canada canceled their flight. Now, in my opinion, that's the thing that should have been absolute top of the line, headline. She really was. And my thought has always been, she was a person, Princess Diana she was sitting in a phenomenal position and went out of her way to make even the simplest of people feel like they were important. Why dig up anything trying to sully that anymore? I mean, she's been dead for decades, I think. But you get this other news report, then you get these other two, and there's a lot more that are really negative, right? As in former celebrities who now have nothing. Like, do they really need this drug out? On the other hand, you've got Kelsey Ballerini honors Olivia Newton-John with an incredibly powerful tribute. Good morning, Greg. How you doing? Well, as long as we eliminate my frustration with technology and with major corporations, doing not bad at all. Health-wise, I'm actually in pretty good shape today, even to the point that I can move without my back hurting. The reality of it is, if we're going to change this world, and if we've got one of two choices. We either start changing the world, as we know it can be, or what we do is we let the thing burn because it's going to. The reality is, on its current path, society is repeating exactly what it did roughly 1,700 years ago, right? When the Roman Empire collapsed. People just had this brilliant idea that, that we were not going to, people had this brilliant idea that they were going to do things in an absolutely dense fashion, and society collapsed. Well, mankind's doing exactly the same thing all over again. Okay, but we can actually turn this around. And the trick to that, in case you're wondering, by the way, I've run into some interesting situations trying to get everything done at the same time. So I'm sort of doing paperwork while I'm talking to you. Since I cannot, I'm working on a camera, by the way, that according to modern technology, yeah, and that is essentially correct there, Lazarus. That's, essentially society, if you look at the backbone of the societal structure, okay, then it's actually not too terribly far off kilter. What's happened is the education that goes behind it as to how to work it. If you're not taught how to do things, or if you're taught ineffectively how to do them, doesn't matter how good the system, it's going to buckle. Yesterday was the 12th. I am so far behind in certain things, I managed to get myself into a bit of an interesting bind. So, like I said, what I end up doing is when I'm talking about tools I offer, they're the ones that I personally use. And if we take a look at, let's break down society for half a second. Well, no, it's breaking down on its own. How about if we point out where the structure has to be shifted? Okay. And we go all the way back to the original. Okay, when I'm talking back to the original, go back to the days when people were still living in caves. Now, of course, in all fairness, if we go back that far, there's a lot of people who argue that you can't go back that far because that was just an imaginary thing. Right, that was just a hoax. But let's go back there anyway. When mankind did not... Now, before I go any further, we have to understand that science and religion work together. Science and spirituality are absolutely linked. So are science and magic. Now, the way you link these all together is religion itself originally came up, or more to the point, spirituality, I think is a better way of putting it, came out because we had things like thunder and lightning that the primitive man did not understand. So somewhere along the line, somebody came to the conclusion that, wait a minute, that's a thunder god. The thing making it, we can't see it, so that's a god. Greetings, Joe. Glad you made it. Now, when we take a look at that, somebody came up with the idea, that's a god, and then somebody piped up, one of the wiser of the people, one of the wiser of the population, says, oh, I can understand it directly. And what happened was he started paying attention to what was going on. Okay. And yeah, there is a very big difference between spirituality and religion. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. Because it all revolves around, that's where it all starts, where society has to get their head set on straight. Somebody came up with the idea that they could understand. They started paying attention to the things that were happening with the thunder and started finding a way to explain it. But what they did was they went, if I can explain it, I can get more power over people. And that's where it started going south. Now, go forward a ways later, and I'm not going to get onto a massive religious bend on it, but I will tell you that what has happened is when we take a look at the religious leaders, okay, and you take a look at the spiritual leaders. Now, I'm a very firm believer in God, in Jesus. Am I what you would call a modern day Christian? Modern, probably. But do I follow what's taught in the Bible? No. Religion is man-made, but here's what religion was really necessary for. Okay. Religion and spirituality for that matter, are a way to explain the inexplicable until science can figure it out. And by doing that, what happened was all of a sudden you've got people going, oh, we know what we're up to. And, and then the people got into positions in the spiritual and religious community. And do understand, I link those two communities together for one reason. I watch what the leaders are doing. And when you get somebody that claims to be spiritual, telling people to fear other people or to hate other people, which is even worse, okay, when you get spiritual teachers telling people that religion has no place, they're missing the boat entirely and doing just as much damage as the religious people saying spirituality has no place. It's a balance point. Okay, all of it has a place. Oh, I'm just looking at this, Joe. Joe's just put into the chat room. Yeah, I'm the one with the cemetery and behind his house. It's the most beautiful day. It was the most beautiful day yesterday. And I used to quite seriously go down to cemeteries because of the fact that they were peaceful. Well, sort of. I'm also a working medium. So I ended up with a lot of friends I could talk to that I didn't necessarily know before they died. I got along better with them than I did with people. Now I don't go to the cemetery so much because, well, frankly, I don't have one inside my house. I know a lot of people do. They have their pets cremated and keep the pets. Or for that matter, people that have their parents cremated and keep the ashes, which ultimately is a cemetery. The closest thing I have to a cemetery in my house is called a garbage can. And every now and again, it gets overfull and things try to get out of it too. The neat part about it is we're taught to fear everything. And this is where that common denominator is. Religion teaches people fear everything and everyone. Politicians teach people fear punishment. And I do mean the politicians, the educational system, even parents tend to focus on fearing the punishment, not gaining praise for doing something right. And these are two common backbones. It does not matter what people are, where they come from in life. Everybody comes from the same location. They all come from the past. They all end up in the present. Okay, this idea that people have, and I'm not getting into this one right now, but this idea that people have that people are coming from the future and giving us messages. Okay, all that is, in all fairness, I have yet to see any functional evidence from anybody that it's possible to move into the past. I've heard people claim it, but never have I ever seen it happen. But I do know, and it's way too complicated to explain here, I do know time travel into the future is possible, but not necessarily wise if you want to have a life here because you can't get back to it. But people have to start looking at the idea of not where did you come from, which is the biggest problem people have. Were we created? Are we seated here from another world? It doesn't matter. You're here now. That's where we have to keep our focus. What is society doing right this moment? What are you doing? What am I doing? In my case, I keep asking that a lot of the time. This morning, it took me forever. I made my coffee, set everything up, walked away, gave it 10 minutes to fill, came back and went, oh, I guess you have to turn the on button, hit the on button to get it to actually brew. By the way, that noise is because we happen to have a helicopter overhead somewhere looking at us going, looking around for whatever. Oh, wait a minute. Did you ever say, okay, I should really read the one that's close up because then I don't have to struggle to see it. There we are. Did you ever think dreams? Lazarus is just asking, did you ever think dreams are just us visiting our lives in other dimensions? Did I think it? Yes. Good morning, angels are life. My own interpretation of that is dreams more often than not are more your subconscious picking up things today in your life on your current path that are going to unfold. If you will, it's a personal version of precognition. These are things you've got to think about. Many times dreams are a way of releasing stress. Okay, of your body just simply releasing stress in its own fashion. Now, how about if we take that and put that up there out of the way? Many times that's what it boils down to. Is people simply striving to relieve the stress in their own life. It doesn't always work that way, but does it? Number one, that I'm aware of, there are 12 dimensions. So, there are 12 dimensions, but the way it was laid out to me is they are not, you cannot transfer from one to the other. You're going to have to get a lot higher up than that. Okay, that is not going to work because I cannot read what's being said. Trying to do too many things here at the same time, and technology today is arguing the point vehemently. Okay. And that'll come up in half a second. There we go. Well, yeah, I understand that. And there are many times, the sad part for me, Lazarus, is the dreams I usually come out of, feeling really relaxed, really rejuvenated from. It used to be the only dreams that I did that with were the ones when I woke up after where there was a bloodbath, as in a body count. And I'm standing there and everything around me is wiped out, which is a violent way of looking at it. Most people call that a nightmare. Okay. Now, that being said, recently that shifted a little. I agree with the angels of life. The reality is that consciousness is really interesting, which amazes me that so many people say they enjoy sleeping, which is ultimately going unconscious. But no, the real world, when we stop looking in the back window to see what went wrong, and we start looking in the present and going, what are we doing? How can we make this feel better? Okay, we've got to stop quitting, and we've got to stop blaming everybody else. Okay, people, and I mean across the board, we've got people from every walk of life blaming God, telling themselves, oh, they were created. Okay, and then and this is where, and I'm going to say something here that's going to upset somebody. Now, understand, this is my personal take on it. Okay, I've talked now, like I said, I do believe wholeheartedly in Christ, wholeheartedly in God. However, what's happened with the Bible is that people are worshiping the Bible. Okay, they've all read the Christians I've talked to recently have all confirmed the same thing. They feel the Bible itself has been changed multiple times. Okay, and yet they're worshiping the contents of said Bible. Now, to me, what this amounts to is everything in the Bible at that point. Now, do understand, I'm a firm believer that what's written in the Bible is actually it's got a lot of truth to it. Problem is, there's a staggering amount that's been cut out. Okay. And so what I came to the conclusion of is what is the people that are worshiping in the Bible, first of all, are at this point, they are fictitious, meaning the original writings have been so altered that what's in there it falls into the category of what's always been said about the Bible. It is the greatest story ever told. Okay. Now, from my standpoint, one of my favorite stories to read was the X-Men comics. A fictitious character that had really good qualities and one heck of a temper. Personally, I like Wolverine, but like I said, do I believe in God? Do I believe in Christ? Certainly. Just not what's written in the Bible anymore. The Bible contains good points. In all fairness, so do Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay. Now, the reality of it is, I keep getting asked by people to go and listen to what they have to say in the church. I'm like, Here's the biggest fundamental problem. It doesn't matter if we're talking in what religion we're talking. The biggest fundamental problem. If you believe that your creator created everything, this means that they created the good, the bad, and the neutral. Now, what I find with many people is they go, God made everything good and Satan made the bad stuff. But God created everything. You've got a massive conflict here that people have to realize. Okay, the Wiccans look at it and go, Gaia, okay, is usually what they refer to her as. I refer to her as Etha, okay, because that's what she told me her name was, so I'll work with it. Okay. So, they turn and look at her and go, she's got both positive and negative things. That is very correct, Lazarus. The reality of it is Satan, or the icon of evil, if you will, was literally sent down. He literally was sent down, to actually get people to pay attention to their own word. Now, the other little glitch here, and this is the biggest one that people in any religion Christianity is a big one in this case. The belief is that Jesus came to forgive our sins, which I have no question about. He absolutely did. Problem: he forgave the sins that were already committed. The Christian church right now, every Christian I've talked to now, I have not spoken to the Pope, so I don't know what he's trying to say. Fairness, I don't even know who he is at this point. Okay. But the Christian faith is behaving as though Christ came along and said, all of you are going to heaven no matter what you do. That is not the way it played out. The message was supposed to be, okay, you've made some pretty big spiritual errors. So we're going to declare bankruptcy, wipe out your back debts, and set you up again. Now, I will tell you, Joe, when you're having, the question about sex dreams, at least you're not going to get anybody pregnant. You're not going to get any sort of an illness from it. Okay, contrary to popular belief, thinking about doing something is not as bad as doing it. But when you think about sex itself, it is a creative, interactive outlet. And that is absolutely correct, Lazarus. Sex itself is a creative, usually interactive outlet. Now, if you're having dreams like that, what you're doing is exploring different creative ideas that you've got about things that maybe you've done in the past. Maybe it was from a past life that you're remembering, but it's something that you're not doing now, and you're looking for some sort of an outlet. But that is the best way for your brain to start kicking creative juices back into activation. Yeah, I'm going to go through coffee today. That's obvious. The amazing part of it is I'm not actually tired at this point, which is kind of an important factor from my end. I've got a lot I've got to get done at this point. But we have to start looking, this issue of dredging up past things, this issue of dredging up past events and past people that have done things wrong. Okay. And going to look for, I was looking at somebody's spending copious hours going through cartoons, looking for derogatory messages. Now, there's got to be something more enjoyable than that. Okay, there's got to be something more productive. That's just sad, Lazarus. I'm looking at this. My sex dreams are so frustrating. I always wake up before the good part. Okay, that at that point is not necessarily is not so much a that takes it outside of the issue of being just a sex dream, so much as a social dream. Okay, striving to find ways to get closer, to connect closer to people. Although I can absolutely understand why waking up then before the good part could be frustrating. You know, but no, the reality of it from that standpoint is, you're looking at socializing. Now, ironically, I don't dream about socializing much. Recently, I have started waking up with certain songs in my head that tie directly to my connection to my other half, which is actually a really good thing. You know, the important factor we have to look at is where are we standing, and what, as a unit, can we actually get things to, what can we actually do to alter the way that the world is working. And the trick to it is, first and foremost, take a look at your own life. Take a look at what you're doing and accept responsibility for your own culpability. Because the reality of it is, when we have a communication, gonna ask Lazarus. I'm presuming that that's got to be a question for me. What Lazarus has asked is, what was the last dream you can remember? And that comes from a very violent part of my past. Okay. And I'm talking past life, because the last one I remember was coming out of my I was literally, I'd been in my what I called my sanctum sanctorum. Okay, in all fairness, it was a cave that I was living in at the time, because I was living in nature. And somebody had got into my cave and tore up every plant and killed every animal that was in there. I come out of there, and to say the least, I was mad. Well, when I got finished, when I tracked down the people that had done it, because I knew how to track. So I tracked the people down. Okay. There were 15 sitting around the campfire. Okay. And the long and the short of it was, when I got finished with it, there were 15 bodies lying around the campfire. And in all fairness, the campfire was scattered a bit. Okay, but once that was done, I was calm again. I went back and rebuilt my sanctum. Okay. Like I said, for me, I came out of that dream very relaxed. And this is why I say, when I'm writing the Yldrbacian Chronicles, a lot of the events either come from past life memories, okay, or they come from personal experience. Most of the people that are in there are based on characters other people have built, or based on actual people. Okay. Oh, absolutely. You take a, where it comes to the supplies there, Lazarus. Yeah, I mean, you don't waste stuff. So, and, the reality was, I took all the gear they had, because it was going to be necessary for somebody. Some of it I had no use for, but I did know other people that were going to need it. Put the fire out properly. In all fairness, I didn't bother burying the bodies, because nature was going to deal with that. And if you take a look at any of the nature reclamation videos, it will the documentaries, they will show you that within 5 to 7 days, every stitch of a body will be gone. But no, this particular dream, when it came to, I think it's in book 1 that I'm in the middle of writing it. Like the third book of the Yldrbacian Chronicles, I'm hoping to have out at the end of this year. The one at the end of next year will be the first one in the overall saga. Long story around that. Elaine, how you doing? The nice part about it is that side of things, like where it comes to dreams, I prefer thinking about building things. And when I'm conscious, that's what I'm working on. When I'm conscious, I'm working on the whole concept of how can I make things better? How can I make not only my life, but the life of those around me more effective, more efficient? Okay. And the reality of it is that by doing that, by focusing on that side of it, I avoid, you know, I actually avoid a lot of complications. Okay. Because I focus on how can I build something? How can I make this world, make it a better place for once I'm gone? Now, like I've told people, I make everybody I meet happy, every single person. Some people I make happy by showing up. Most of them I make happy by leaving. Okay. And this is the thing, you know, um, and I'm going to throw a wrench into this, Lazarus. Okay. Lazarus has just said angels, yes. Most issues, speaking to angels or us, most issues can be solved just by asking God or source consciousness to make it stop. Here's the funny part about it. The moment you ask for something to happen, you're acknowledging and thereby creating the possibility of loss, of lack. Because when you're asking, you're saying, and in linear thinking, it works great. I don't have it, therefore I'm asking for it. But what the universe hears, what God hears, is I desire to experience a lack of such and such. Okay. Net result, you end up getting pretty much what you asked for. Now, here's the other problem. Okay. It tells you very clearly in virtually every spiritual path I've looked at that God helps those that help themselves. And what this means, okay, now this was a story I got told years ago, actually by my father. He says there's a massive flood going on and there's a great warning that comes out. And, warning comes out, get to higher ground. And the whole community is told, get to higher ground because the water's going to continue rising. So this one woman, she's staying in her house and she hears the warning. She says, no way, God will protect me. I'm going to stay here. Right. So a long time, the water keeps rising. It's going in through her front door and a guy in a rowboat comes up. And he says, come on, get in. I'll give you a lift to higher ground. Oh no, God will protect me. So it gets a little higher and now she's up on the edge of the roof. And along comes the powerboat. Come on, hop in. I'll take you to safety. And she goes, no, God will protect me. I've asked for God. He's going to protect me. So she ends up on the top of sitting on the chimney. Her house is completely underwater. And a helicopter comes along and says, come on, get on. We'll take you to high ground. She goes, no, God will protect me. He is my savior. He will take care of me. So the helicopter flies off. She drowns. She ends up at the pearly gates. And she goes, St. Peter, I thought God was going to protect me. Why didn't he? I called for him. I asked for help. Peter looks at her and goes, well, because he sent you a rowboat, he sent you a powerboat, he sent you a helicopter. What more did you want? All you had to do was get on any one of those. Okay. And that is, you really do, Elaine. In your subconscious, and by the way, since it's in your subconscious, you actually have access to it in your consciousness. Okay. All we have to do is decide, are we going to continue paying attention to the people that are saying, turn it over to somebody else, blame God, it's all his fault. By the way, God didn't do anything evil. He never made anything evil, according to most of them. Or we can turn to the UFO community. Okay. And I've been asked this so many times by people in the UFO community. Well, if the aliens are so interested in us, why don't they come down and help us straighten this out? They're not coming down to fix it. They're not coming down to invade anybody. They are simply watching the way we handle it. It's a research thing from their end. Now, yes, they will absolutely take a look at things. You know, when we take a look at it, we have to go, okay, we've created this mess. We've created the clutter in our own lives. We've created the dissidence in our own lives. What are we as individuals going to do to change that, to alter the path? Okay. Now, I mean, that is, in all honesty, the biggest thing that we have to decide. Are we going to continue blaming everybody else? Now, yes, there is no question the government, as it stands right now, with the people leading it at this point, are responsible for a lot of the they're responsible for all of the laws that they're making that don't add up. Are they responsible for inflation? No. They are responding to mankind's, to society's drive to have more money and less work. You know, and they are responding to the way that humans are dealing with the process around them. You know, the entire process that we've got to look at is, number one, we've got to start looking at ourselves. What is my culpability? What is my responsibility? You know, I've got a mess in my office in case you can't tell. You know, I was doing a video meeting the other day, and because the person wanted to record it, and I didn't have a problem with it. The way I figured, I am what I am. You know, and people have asked me all kinds of weird questions, but this guy, he goes, I want to film it, but I need you to put a backdrop in so you can't see what's behind you. I want to get the real you. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'll put the backdrop up. And I did put it up to accommodate. But the reality is, in my eyes, you want to know what I am? This is the way it is. You know, this mess behind me, that's mild compared to what used to be there. Lazarus, that is right there is an appalling display. Okay. I was actually really pleased when I found out, when my brother passed, that my other brother decided he got left the entire estate. And I was really lucky with him, because his past behavior did lead me to believe other things. Okay. And what ended up happening is he went to the lawyers and made sure it was getting split 3 ways. So in a few months, I'll be sitting fine, as long as I quit doing stupid things. Elaine, you're absolutely right. Your imagination is the key, not only to altering the way society is running, but it is the key to everything you do. Okay. If I look at it, I don't like glasses. Now, the reason I wear them at all is because when I was about 12 years old, I took a trailer hitch to the right eye. Right. Ended up in a patch for 3 weeks. By the time they got the patch off, my eyes had collapsed. But it was by learning what the key factor behind things were that I found out how to correct my eyes. Now, I did it by knowledge, by imagination, it was literally by will. Okay. But not by technology. Okay. I have not had an operation. I've taken no medication for it. But here's what I did find. If I had my glasses right there, back in 2007, I could not physically see my glasses. I now have 20/20 eyesight for reading. That's if my book is here, right? Book over there, not so much. That's why I keep these things handy. The important factor, there are certain things that you have to look at, and that is, and I do encourage you, Lazarus. I realize what your sister has done is, quite frankly, heinous, absolutely heinous, in my opinion. Okay, but I will tell you, or I will encourage you rather, is that it is absolutely imperative that you forgive her as much as you can so it doesn't weigh you down. This does not mean forget what she did. It does not mean trust her every step of the way. Okay, this would just be foolhardy, in my opinion, anyway. But the imagination, yeah. See, they say the Bible tells you hope is the foundation of faith. It is, but when the people that are leading the faiths are destroying that hope, okay, or giving you carte blanche to do things stupid, okay, i.e., where it tells you that your sins are forgiven. That was the past ones. That is not every single time that you do something stupid. Yeah, I don't blame you there, Lazarus. I was absolutely shocked when my brother actually turned around, because I told my brother years ago, I made some comments to him that were certainly, shall we say, disappointing. But he confirmed that with the way I was looking at it, I was absolutely right. He and I get along fine now. As long as we can let go, forgive the past enough to be able to move forward, the world will change in a positive fashion. But the trick to it is not to figure out where you're heading. It's to figure out where you're standing, and are you content with where your life is right now? If the answer is yes, I keep doing that. I'm doing something up here in case you hadn't noticed. I've got 4 monitors. Okay. The computer itself, one up here, a top one, and a 4th one right here. And like I said, I really put myself behind the 8 ball. But the key to making everything happen is to first and foremost start looking out the front window. Think of it this way. If you're driving your car, you're trying to move forward with your vehicle. How much time do you spend not looking in the rearview mirror, but how much time do you spend looking over your shoulder out the back window while you're driving forward? The other, because my other half is completely blind, I use the way I explain it to her, because obviously driving isn't going to work. And say, okay, take your white cane, hold it out, pointing behind you, and walk forward and see how many walls you run into. Okay, this is why we've got to stop looking at the past, dredging into the past, destroying the remnant, the pictures of the past. We've got to start looking at the present by modifying the energy in the present. And this applies to everybody, no matter whether you happen to be running a multinational corporation or a household. Joe, in all honesty, the answer is definitively yes. Okay. Joe's asked me, from a paranormal standpoint, have you actually seen lizard people walking? I have actually been carried by lizard people. Okay. I have been in a fight with lizard people. And rest assured, as a person, I am very much a pacifist. Unfortunately, I'm also very violent when I get cornered, which is why I don't get cornered very often. But yes, I have seen them. I've been on their ships. I've actually been on their home world, on one of their home worlds. Okay, and the reason I say one of is because I know of at least 13 races. In all fairness, I think only 7 of them are off-world. Okay, but have I actually met them? The answer is yes. As a matter of fact, where is it? This book here. If you look at this picture, this chap right here is actually, well, there we go. This chap right here, that is a Thrazazian. Okay. Now you'll notice if you take a look at this as a normal-sized human, okay, this is their actual size. Now take a look at this. This is the mace they use. Okay. Now, that is based on that is a real, from my standpoint, that is because it is a friend of mine, okay, And yes, I put him in there because he worked beautifully for the storyline I was working with. um, yeah, and I do believe it boils down to when they say repent. In other words, I'm really honestly sorry I did this. Right. And here's the thing, humans talk about aliens coming down to help people. Here's a reptilian way of solving the problem. Okay. The reptilians turn around and you're in a position of power. You're politically in a better position, and you're not doing a good job. So with the Srazazian culture, the population can come up and say, "We don't like the way you're doing things. Step down." Now, you do, as a politician, have the right to say, "No, I'm not stepping down. I'm staying in office." Okay. Much like what Trump went and did. Okay. I'm not stepping down. Right. Well, the Srazazians go, "Okay, don't step down." They kill you while you're standing there. They will tear you limb from limb and throw you on the dinner table. Okay. That's their method of dealing with it. They go, "Okay, we've asked you politely. You can step down, go back to your last position. No disrespect, no harm, no black mark. You're not being fired. You're being told step down." Okay. They do the same thing with a promotion in one of their companies. You know, but these people are they're very simplistic from that standpoint. Absolute honor, and this is something that humans could learn from them very clearly. Yes, they're a much more violent race, but when we're talking violent, we are talking a race that will quite readily. They're very gentle. When you think about it, one of the things I found with these people is they spend literally years figuring out how to actually pick up a soft item, because their strength is such. If they grab hold of a human, right, they will puncture, they'll lacerate the skin with their claws just by accident. You got to remember, these guys come from a 2G planet with sandstorms that'll strip a human to the bone in a heartbeat. Okay. So these people are very, very dense. They are very aware. You know, well, that's the thing. There are hybrids out there. Okay. However, I will warn you, unless you see it in person, okay, if you're seeing it on video, 9 times out of 10, I don't care what the video specialists say. "Oh, that's not modified." I wouldn't trust it as far as my life depends, as far as I can throw it. If you see it face to face, it is possible, because hybrids do exist. I know of a purebred human whose eyes absolutely change color when he gets mad. Okay, and I've seen it face to face. But they don't change color as in flare into another color. They literally work like a gas gauge going this way across the eyes. Okay. And it's weird. But the important, like, I take a look at it and go, "Okay, yeah, I will tell you wholeheartedly, I'm not going to lie to you to make you feel better, unless you directly ask. But can I prove what I'm talking about? No. I'm just talking about the way I see the world. And the reality of it here is, are there hybrid children on the planet? Absolutely. Contrary to one particular UFO researcher's statements, every hybrid does not know they're a hybrid. They really don't. Just like every person that is adopted does not necessarily know they're adopted. That's just the reality behind it. It'd be nice if in some ways, it would be nice if they did. If you knew exactly where you came from, if you knew what your heritage was. Let me ask you this. Okay. Now, I know I'm Canadian. Does the fact that I'm descended from the Scottish Highlands? No. It doesn't change what I am right now. The reality of it is how you are, okay, how you behave right now is a culmination of everything you've come through. Okay. And just because you don't necessarily see eye to eye. My biggest problem at this point has been I'm looking at this going, these are the realities we're dealing with. Only I'm not seeing much of a change. Right. I would love to see more people doing this. And I know the majority of people are quite seriously. It's not that they're not decent people. It's a question of they don't entirely know how to deal with what they're up against. No, that's the reality behind it. And what you're looking at is the fact that we have to understand that people are shifting gears. They're looking to blame other people. We have to stop doing this because by stopping blaming everybody else, by taking responsibility for our own actions. Okay. Well, Lazarus, I agree with you there. Okay, and part of that is because you don't necessarily relate to the way the rest of the world is working. Well, just to clarify, Jupiter is inhabited, and Jupiter does have humans on. There are humans on Io, a research station there. But Jupiter itself is inhabited underneath the liquid that we see. Okay. I have not honestly been to Jupiter itself. I've been to Io, but not to Jupiter. Okay. As in not onto the planet. But it is definitely possible. One of the things that feeling can be is I knew of another person that that remembered very much a different life on another planet. The reality is sometimes we remember the other planet better than we remember the one we're on. Okay. And have I had my own issues with it on occasion? Certainly. But the reality is you're here now. Where you came from isn't changing the fact you're here at this point. And this is the thing people tend to forget about. Is it how you got here is not half as important as what you do now that you are here. Okay. But it does matter what you do and whether or not what you're doing is striving to assist others, striving to help others without hanging yourself up. Okay. I've created a major problem for myself where I've had to delay something that I really wanted, that I was really intent on doing. But because I reached out and I've been helping a couple of people financially when I don't have a lot of money. Okay, I really don't. But because I've done that, I've had to postpone an event that could literally change my financial life. Okay, but I'm going to have to postpone it for a couple of months because of the fact that I just don't have the funds for it. And and I keep telling people, don't do this. Like I said, I am not perfect. I got this bad habit of looking at things, or good habit, and going, you need help, I'll do what I can. Only I've got to learn to look further down the road and go, this is what's coming up. As it stands right now, okay, I am about as tight to the wire as I can be. Okay, I was thinking I was going to have to postpone something I thoroughly enjoy doing, which is going out for breakfast on Saturday morning. Fortunately, I got paid this morning, so I can do it. It's not a big expense, but I don't do a lot. Like, I don't leave the house a lot. So when I do, I like to enjoy what I do. Now, what you've got to remember is when you're looking at where your life is, absolutely, I encourage you to help the people you come in contact with. Absolutely do so. I do believe wholeheartedly in the concept of tithing, as in a percentage of what you make. Yeah, well, here's the thing, angels are life. There's no problem, you're drawn to this other planet, which is great. Spend your time there, but remember, the majority of your time must be spent here. Okay, I was told one day that, we came here to experience this life, and you did. Okay. And, you came here, but now that you're here, I says, well, I do spend my time here. And the woman looks at me and goes, spending 10% of your time in your body doesn't count as staying here. You have to look at the physical world in which you're living. And Lazarus, I do agree with you. Maybe it's not so much it wasn't meant to, because I'm a firm believer the meant to doesn't exist. However, it did force me to really reassess what I'm doing. I had committed a lot of resources to a major company to help me with my publishing. As it turns out, they have dropped the ball absolutely, completely. I phoned them a month ago and told them I needed to talk to somebody in person. It was urgent because they had scrambled the project. I still have not heard back from them. Okay. So what I've had to do is rearrange everything and go, okay, I am getting all the books written. And as of yesterday, I am literally writing, physically putting pen to paper or stroke to disc. Okay. 14 books, all literally on a daily basis at the same time. Obviously one after the other. While I'm in the process of editing 4 others. Okay. And now that means there's another, what? That's 18. So there's another 12 that I'm doing bits and pieces of as I go along. Net result, 30 books at once. Okay. The reality of it is we have to look at your current life. You've got to look at what you're doing at this point in order to get ahead. In order to make this world a better one than what we are. The funny part about it, yeah. And Joe, in all fairness, just talking to God every day and praying even a little bit, even if I still sin. You know what? And let's talk about the church thing for half a second. It tells you in the church, there's a quote, and don't ask me the passage. Okay, there's a quote that tells you. And the church rose its arms up under the heavens and raised its voice under the angels above. Now, I'm paraphrasing, okay? But I have never seen a building built anywhere that actually does that. Now, when I end up with a few $1 million, I will do my best to build one. Okay. But that's only because of it being a curiosity thing. I'd like to see it. It also tells you, Yeshua himself told the people at that time, wherefore 2 or more are gathered in my name, there am I. Church doesn't require, and God doesn't require a building. Your belief in God does not require going to a man-built church. Okay, it requires understanding and respecting here that there is positive things that can happen in the world, and you have the ability to bring them to light. Oh, I came to understand that. And I've got to work out what exactly all they've done wrong. The company that I work with locally, that prints them locally, has done an absolute bang-up job. Okay, and I will continue to work with them. I'm now in the process of looking for a proper distributor. Okay, and this is what somebody just dropped me a line the other day, just yesterday, dropped me an email that said they're interested in looking at them. But that's where I've got the problem with the money I don't have at this point to actually do it. But if they're that interested, they'll wait for it and they'll come back in a month and do it. Okay. The other thing is, if you like my website, rkeithandrews.com, has all of the books now, including the price, including their prices and synopses that tell you what's available, as well as some of the ones that are up and coming. Okay, so with that in mind, they will give you prices and what have you. The shipping price is included in the price. Okay, but it tells you how much of it is shipping, but that's only for Canada and the continental US. So I'm going the route of going, okay, let's go with word of mouth. I've got the website up. I've got another gentleman that's going to be helping me get my another business website up on GoDaddy, because I understand that in order to get a message heard, in order to get anything done, today's world relies on technology. The reality of it, from my standpoint, is technology and I don't exactly get along. When I was doing this online interview the other day, I warned the guy. I says, look, technology does not work for me the way you think it does. Right? So we get all set to do the interview, and bang, he's gone. He contacts the other person that was on the interview, that was supposed to be on the panel, and he says, my system threw me out. So he gets back onto the video after a little bit, and he says, I've never had that happen in my life. I looked at him and I said, never is just a way of life for me where it comes to technology. Moments later, he was fired off. He was fired off again. Okay, he was shut down a second time. And this is just the normal thing. This is why I'm doing this video recording right now. Okay, obviously I've got interaction. Obviously it's working. But according to the computer I'm working on, this camera does not exist. This camera is not possible. Now, clearly there's a problem here. But so be it. The reality is that when we start communicating, when we start working with each other, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody, but it is going to require cooperation. If you take a look in our chat room here, okay, people are talking to each other. This is something that doesn't happen as often as I would like to see happen. Okay, not in the real world anymore. There are so many times I see somebody you'll see 3 and 4 people sitting in a restaurant, and they're all staring at their iPhone, at their phones. Nice part there, Joe, is there's no problem with that. No, you're not perfect, but it's not perfect people that go to heaven. Now, I'm going to say something here that's going to absolutely throw half of you for a loop. Okay. Does heaven exist? Absolutely. Now, as I've told people before, I was clinically dead 4 times before I actually hit 10 years old. Clinically meaning the doctors had to restart my heart. At least 4, possibly 6 since then, okay, that somebody else started my heart, or it just restarted. Okay, so do I know for absolute certainty from my experience, heaven exists, hell exists, that neat little place where you just lie in the dirt and decay, that exists. The coffins that people believe they get put into, they are all real. But here's the thing you're not told. You're not trapped in any one of them. Okay. You can come and go as you figure it out. Now, I can tell you this here. But the problem is, when you end up on the other side, what I've just told you may not stick. Okay. And it may take you a while to piece it together. See, now the one thing I've looked at a lot of the things in the Bible. The thing we have to understand, when I don't want to go down this road too terribly far, most of what is in the Bible has a very solid backbone to it. But there is stuff that is in the Bible that they absolutely screwed up and completely decimated. Okay. not the least of which is the fifth commandment. Okay, now we start with the idea that the Ten Commandments were not the first tablets brought down. And that can be seen in the first chapter or second chapter of Exodus. Okay, I don't remember which one. But it tells you right there, the first tablets, Moses held close to his chest and shattered on the ground before he even showed them to Aaron. That would be the important issue. The second book of Races of the Worlds, I'm looking at having out next year, at the end of next year. That's the idea behind it anyway. The Races of the Worlds, the first edition, is getting a reprint by the end of this year. I think I've got 10 pictures left that we're working on. Which reminds me, I've got to get that other set in today. Where's my pen? This one. Dullaby. Just made a note for myself so that as soon as I get back from going for lunch today, I will get the pictures on the descriptions that I require going off to get the next 5 photos done. Or not photos, but the next 5 pictures done. Give me half a second here. I'm not going very far. Just have to do 2 things. One, I love it. I love a blind that doesn't work right. Just can't see a thing, so hopefully this will help. Okay, that'd be the first thing I needed. Now, hopefully I remember where I filed it. Should be in the room. Okay, bingo. This is just a preview, guys. Where it comes to Races of the Worlds, I said I was getting pictures done. So these are the ones that are going to be. These are some of the pictures that are going to be in the book. Okay, in the second printing. Let's just see if I've got now. And this should tell you exactly what it is. Bring it back a little. There you go. As you can see, these are not nice people. Okay. These ones, not so friendly. Okay. And then you have these guys. These are the smaller ones. Okay. Those are the smaller chameleons. That's just your average. Okay. Now, these are all pictures that are going to be in when I get Races of the Worlds, the second printing out. These are some of the ones that'll be in it. This is a race that you won't find in Races of the Worlds Volume 1. This is in Volume 2. Okay. As is this one. Also in Volume 2. As you can see, some of these look very similar to what you know of as mythological creatures. Which, in all fairness, they are. That's where people knew about them. And this is one of the bigger chameleons. Okay. Now, I mentioned on SOR yesterday. No. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I mentioned to them there is a link between a number of the races. Okay. There is a link between a number of the races. As in the drakes, the drakes, the Srazazian, the Tormenon, and the chameleons are all the same root. Okay. Just like when we take a look back in mankind's evolution. Okay. And you can call it, creation, whatever you will. Thank you. Welcome, football. Glad you joined us. Yeah, that particular ring is a gift from it's a very expensive gift. As in, this came from my older brother's estate after he passed away. This is all I've got left of him. Not that I'm complaining. But the issue of it is, this is the brother that I was very closely tied to. And it's just for clarity, the green in it, that's malachite. Okay. Sterling silver. I can't wear anything less than sterling silver. I'll dissolve it. But yes, absolutely it does. That was my older brother. When I was 18, I was asked to move out. You know, yeah. You know, when I was 18, I was asked to move out, to move in with my brother that I got this ring from. There's another ring around here somewhere that I also got from him, but number one didn't fit. This one fits, so that's where it sits. See, the nice part about when we take a look at the chameleons, okay, now we have to understand the different races. Yeah, I pulled that way too close. The different races, alien races, are essentially the same as human ones, with two major discrepancies. One, every member race of the consortium is, and they have a unified world. They've got a one world government. This does not mean they have a dictator. It means they have a panel from around the world, kind of like an oversized UN, okay, that determines not the war and what have you. They just don't have, they've got fights between themselves, absolutely. But the way that many of these races do it, and the chameleons are a prime example, if they have a border war, what the other countries around the world will do is they will seal the outside borders of both countries and go, that's it, sort it out. Right? It's kind of like what I did when I was growing up. When we had cats, as a family, we had cats. And every time Dad ended up with a new cat that we'd take in, we'd close the door, we'd put all the cats into the room, we'd lock the door, and leave them all in the room until the fighting stopped. Once the fighting stopped, we'd open them at the door. It was like, okay, put you all in the same room, figure it out. Once you figure it out, we'll let you get back into the real world. And that is how, especially with the chameleons, that is literally how they do that. Yeah. Unfortunately, I dissolve a lot of things. Years ago, Alan, Nathan, how we doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, the acid level in my system is so high, literally. And then we go with that odd thing of, how high is it? No, the reality of it is, when I got married to my first wife, I came back, I was working in the backyard. It was 40 degrees, which according in the States boils down to about 110. So I was sweating pretty heavily. And we were newlyweds, so she come out to give me a hug in the middle of the day. Came out, wrapped her arms around me, and of course I didn't have a shirt on. She took first-degree burns over her upper torso and her arms. Right. So, needless to say, she let go in a hurry. Then she runs off, comes back a little while later. It's still in the low to mid 40s. Comes back and figures she's going to goof off, as newlyweds do. And she hits me with a stream of cold water from the hose, from the garden hose, figuring she's just going to cool me off. My heart stopped. That was the end of water fights. Needless to say, I started again. It started again because, well, I'm here. But no, the thing we have to remember about virtually every off-world race, and for that matter, well, the off-world races have a unified world, which means they've got a panel of people. Because the reality is, people living in the Congo on Earth are not going to understand the hardships or the necessities of life in the Arctic, and vice versa. So you've got to have a panel of people that set up interactive reality. No, they don't bother. There's way too much, and it's way too crowded. Joe's just asking if I've witnessed a UFO land in front of my house at night. Not in recent years. I do recall one landing when I was a child back on the island. Okay, but in the last 40 years since I've been in Kelowna, I've never lived in a place where they could land one without destroying a car or two, and they have a tendency of avoiding that. On the other hand, I have been on one at night, looking out the front window and seeing what the world looks like. This is one of the reasons why I tell people, when you talk about lack of room on this planet, there is a staggering amount of room on this planet. Okay. And this planet, I know from personal experience, so I'll call it fact. It's a past life thing, but it is what it is. We had over 10 billion people living on this planet. Okay. Comfortably at peace with each other. There was no war. There was no disease. There was no greed. Sounds like an absolute paradise. And it was. The civilization came to an end. Good morning, football. Glad you can make it. There is a wonderful little setup that we had everything going on. Everybody was getting along. It was not war that wiped out the planet in this case, that wiped out civilization. It was a very, very poorly thought out experiment. Somebody came up with the idea of, I wonder what would happen if we all shut our physical hearts off at the same time. Well, that was a great idea. We should have thought about it, though. Half the population died on the spot. And by the time, within the year, we had gone from 10 billion to about 10,000. Okay. The few of us that were left scattered. We shut down everything. And we ended up intermixing with other races. With other smaller communities. But we started back before we had any of our abilities. And therefore, we had to start learning how to do everything. Grow food, build shelters, protect ourselves from the wild animals. Because rest assured, you take 9.9 billion people. Oh, we shut off the physical heart. And the reason I said hearts, we all had one heart. But when you have 10 billion people, you've got plural hearts. In other words, we physically just decided, stop the heart cold. Kind of like when I get a headache, most of the time, in today's world, if I get a headache, most of the time I'll sit and concentrate for a moment or two, and I'll bring the headache to a close. I won't use medication. Okay. So, I take a look at that. We had this down to a fine art. I did it to somebody a number of years back. Somebody had got themselves cut. Yeah, you heard it right. Not a problem, Nathan. Sometimes I trip over my own words. And heck, sometimes I don't understand me. But no, there was a kid before cell phones were a real big thing. There was a kid that cut himself really badly. And I literally come over to him now. I don't touch people as much as I can get away with it anyway. So I looked at the kid. I says, let me take a look at that. Right. Meanwhile, people are off running, looking to find somebody that had a cell phone that they could phone the ambulance with. So I says, let me take a look at it. I'm not going to touch you. Right. And I held my hand literally about that far above the wound. Right. And I just concentrated for a few moments. And the people sitting there are going, what are you doing? He's bleeding. We got to do something with it. it stopped bleeding. I says, yeah. I said, it was just a question of remodulating the plasma. Right. I didn't even think about how easy or how simplistic that sounded. But it was just, I just simply slowed the blood down so it could clot. Right. Now, this is this lifetime. This is not an issue of something I did in a past life or something I dreamt about doing. Okay. I mean, I've seen some remarkable things. I know of one gentleman, I watched him do it. He took a cup of water. He set the cup of water on the table, and he put his hand above it, and you could see shock waves go across the surface of the water. Which reminds me, I've got to get to work on that. And this is a trick for all of you to work with energy. Okay. Now I'm not going to do it with this because this is full of coffee, so I'm not doing it. Grab a clear glass, fill it with water. Okay. And set it on a stable place. Do not touch the counter or the table that you're working with. Okay. Put a clear glass or a clear bowl of water on a flat surface. Okay, on a stable surface that isn't vibrating. Okay. Then you take a toothpick, just a standard toothpick, and set it in the water. Let it stop moving. Then take your hands, and this is something I've got to work on as well. Okay. I've done it before. Good morning, Chad. How you doing? Glad you could join us. You take your hands, and if you take your hands, either one hand or both, doesn't matter. That's your call. You focus on the energy in the palm of your hand. You visualize it, or imagine, if you will, it coming out of your hand and hitting that toothpick, and watch what happens. You're not likely to see anything happen in a hurry, but it's like any muscle. You've got to work to build up to it. But see what you can do about moving that toothpick. Now, it's not likely to happen the first day. This could be hours, it could be weeks. I have no way of giving you an answer. But I am, because of things I've come to understand, I've decided that this is one of those little projects, along with figuring out how to write with my left hand again, which I keep postponing because, well, frankly, too much on the go. But that, again, is working with the energy. And once people realize that we all have that capacity, then the power of other people over us starts to shift. Okay. When I had my stroke a few years ago, I was told I would be on blood pressure control pills for the rest of my life. It took me 10 days to bring my blood pressure down from 180 to 135, 140. Now I'm still keeping close eye on it. Just reading some of the notes that are in the chat room here. You know, the reality of it is that when we actually start taking responsibility for our own actions, for our own ability, I've mentioned this before. And I don't think you can see it, but there's a scar right there. Okay, that's from when I snapped my arm to the point they had to bolt it. That thing I put back together in 9 days. That one is medically backed up in the hospital. Now, whether anybody can get to the records or not, I don't know. Okay, I don't do that side of it. But the thing is, when we start looking at today's world, and we start going, what are we up to? You know, how are we going to make this world work? That's when things turn around. When we start concentrating as a group, well, in all fairness, as individuals, on what you're not content with, start modifying the energy, start modifying what you're doing to shift from the focus on the negative to the focus on the positive. Okay. And, you know, the reality of it is that whatever field you're working with, Oh, look at that. We've got all sorts of things going on. I was just double checking. I got a notice here. Like I said, I've got way too many things on the go on occasion. But we have to look at the world from the standpoint of wherever you came from, however you got here, isn't the relevant question, because every one of you is here, right now. And the reality is, this is the only time that you can ever change anything. Okay, is when you actually decide you're going to do it, even if you postpone it. By the time you get to it, a week down the road, a month down the road, if you go like society, a century or two down the road, when you finally start changing things, it's right here, right now. And that's the only time that you can do it. And the only person, the only entity in existence that can change your life, that can be successful for you, is you. Now, I mentioned earlier, I've got this massive project. I've talked about it a lot, the Yldrbac Chronicles. As of yesterday, I started actively writing in all 12 at the same time. So I worked it out, and if I do it on a daily basis, by the end of next year, I will likely have very close to all 12 of them written. Then I've still got to do the final edit on them, but I'll be going through that as I go along. And I'll get them racked off as I can. Okay, the idea is to get them into print. Now, whether I have a major corporation that actually does something with it or not, I'm not overly concerned with, because I'm just doing it my way. It's just that simple. You know, the reality is, if they, like, I've got the 2 books that are done through this major company. If I take a look at them, if I go inside the book, right, where it's all printed, and I don't have the physical sheet in front of me. Let's see, somewhere in here. There we go. Copyright by Ronald Keith Andrews. So I'm not worried about that. And besides that, I've got all the hard copy paperwork from 40 years ago when I started writing. So do I know that they're all copyrighted? They're all done by me? Certainly. I will be going through, I've got a friend of mine, well, an acquaintance of mine that has agreed to come over and give me a hand to get Amazon up and running on my own, so I can get the rest of the books onto Amazon. Otherwise, without that, even without Amazon, I've got a website that's got contact information that tells you what the books are, what they're about, and how to order them directly from me. And I've got them all I've got copies all in stock here. Like, I had somebody the other day picked up a copy of the end of an epic. And literally, well, he sent it in on Friday. And because we're dealing with the Postal Service, I had it shipped out on Monday. My basic rule, because life does get annoying on occasion, is my company policy is simple. I get an order within 3 business days, I'll have it in the mail. And then I'll let the person know it's on its way. Now you're on your own, because I don't control the mail. I still think personally that the Pony Express worked better. Right? 10 days to go from one side of the country to the other on horseback. Today it's a week inside the same city. I'm not sure how that qualifies as technological advancement. But this is why I say it is absolutely imperative that people start looking at the world in the here and now. Take responsibility. That depends on the book. Where are we here? Yeah, I'm on the wrong thing to be able to actually see. Okay, Lazarus. It depends on where you are, but if you go to rkeithandrews.com, it gives you all 7 of the books I have in print. They range from $20 to $40 plus shipping. Okay. And it'll tell you there, it depends. I mean, in all fairness, when we take a look at this one, that's one of the books I've got. Now, this one, shipping included, is $20 anywhere in Canada or the continental US. Other places I've got to look into. I will tell you, it was absolute, and this is where I run into the problem and why I'm looking for a distributor. You have a good one, Nathan. Glad you joined us. The thing about this is because I have to deal with Canada Post to ship, I'll be looking at other ones. Okay, Lazarus, where it comes to being in Pennsylvania, because that's in continental U.S. This one, I'll just run through them real quick for you to answer your question, so you don't have to go anywhere. This one is $20 shipping included. $20 shipping included. This one, which is the one that is really getting a lot of headway. Okay. This is $40 shipping included. And again, I'm looking at the postal service. Where it gets expensive, and this is the one because those are easy. They stay pretty stable. Okay. These two, which are children's books, are only $30. Okay. It's this one. These two that are a pain. Okay. Because if I can get them to you, if you're local, then quite frankly, it's $40 for these two. Right. The flip side of that is that with shipping, they're $65. And that's the problem I'm having, because what's been put on the net is such a botch job. The content is absolutely on the money. If you're not looking for, the thing is, the way these books were designed, and this is where I've got the biggest problem. If you look at the back of them, okay, the pictures match. Okay, they match up to make a bigger picture. If you're not worried, and they also match up to make a picture on the spine. The botch job that was done. If you look at the ones that are on Amazon right now, they do not match up. And this is why I've been trying to get corrected. That's just the reality behind it. But, and this is why I said, I figured out a way. Well, thank you very much, Lazarus. And that's, I figured out a way, because I know word of mouth advertising is the number one, bar none, best method of advertising. And this applies to whether you're trying to help somebody. I can write all the books in the world, okay, or anybody can, okay. Most, some people learn by reading, okay. And what I've done, don't follow that. What I found is writing things down. Some people learn by reading. Some people learn by listening to the instructions. Some people learn by doing, or by being physically shown. Okay. So when I wrote these, okay, these are extremely simplistic. You can tell because they're very thin. Okay. But this one in particular is the backbone to how I turned my life around. How I took my life from being a complete shambles to actually regaining control over it. Okay. And, the way I look at it is I'm not perfect. The tools I use, I know they work because I've used them for years. I was going to say centuries. I've used them for years. Okay. And I've shared them with countless people at this point. Okay. With remarkable levels of success. This is why I can stand here or sit here and go, these tools will work. Whoops, missed that. Which one are we referring to? I'm not sure which book I was holding up at the time when you wrote that one, when you said that. Just a curiosity question, Lazarus. You say you've written in what is that one called? I'm presuming you're referring to the one I wrote called Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams. Yeah, that's the one. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams. That is the one that holds the backbone of how I took my life from being a complete scattered, shambled mess to in control of it myself. This didn't do a thing for my social skills. But like my son gave me a t-shirt. He goes, and it says on it, it says, my people skills are just fine. It's my tolerance of idiots that needs work. And I'm pretty certain most people can relate to that to a degree. I do, in answer to the other side there, Lazarus, I do work with PayPal. Okay, and yeah, some people say it costs money. Well, it does, but so what? Okay, you got to do it somehow. I do work with PayPal, and the email that is tied to is innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. Okay, again, that's all laid out, just not with a hot button at this point, but it's all laid out where if you go to rkeithandrews.com, you can get a real good solid concept of what books are available. Any of the merchandise, and I will be eventually going into it as I've got the money to do so, which on a plus side, because of the plan, yes, that is absolutely correct, Lazarus, at yahoo.ca. I think I said .com. It's at yahoo.ca. Just because of the fact I screwed it up here. Oh, that figures did that completely wrong. I did. That's what I get for my hands not actually working. Shouldn't have tried doing that. In any event, it's Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca will access PayPal. That's what I use as far as the payment goes. And the reason for that is because I had to have some way to do it. And in Canada, I can use e-transfer. It's not, e-transfer doesn't work between the states as near as I get. But something that I did find out, I'm a firm believer. I don't like people go, oh, buy a membership to my video. The reality is I'm not going to. Okay, this is how I choose to spend my time. I would be still doing the posts on a daily basis. Greeting Wallet Moth. Glad you made it. I would still be doing the pre-records and posting them, but according to my computer, my camera is missing. Although apparently it works. Got a friend of mine that's going to actually look into seeing if they can help me get past that and find it back and get it back up and running. For the moment, I'm doing my best to come on here, and I just do it when I can, right? But the Saturday morning, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST, right? I will be on here anyway. But for the time being, you may spot me online just on a whim, because that's just the way I'm going to have to do things. Tell you, the temperature here is climbing like a rocket. So hopefully that doesn't make too much noise, but it's either that or I get dizzy. But no, the thing is, if you've got an idea, okay, and this is very important. I've been working in the consulting field, personal, business, and UFO related for 46 years now. Okay. So if there is a question you have, if there's a topic that you would like to look at, or if you've got a question, absolutely ask me. Below this video, you'll find a whole list of different ways of getting a hold of me. Okay. It's not like I hide from people. Not really. Okay. But I will tell you, if you try phoning me without actually texting ahead and telling me what the number coming in is, I may, or it's a hit and miss whether or not I'll pick up the phone, because I get way too many people phoning saying, oh, by the way, your SIN number, or what you may know as your social security number, has been canceled. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a problem at customs, with a shipment that you've got coming in. And, I get so many of them that I just got fed up with it. Or, of course, your visa's been overcharged. I don't own a visa, right? And all I get is people like that, which is why this week sometime, in all likelihood, it's just a matter of procrastination on my part. So do I. I wish there was a way to shut them down, but the sad part is, so far, football, I haven't found a way to shut them down. My brother, who recently passed away, had built a phenomenal virus scanner. He built one himself. And what it did was, when a virus hit his computer, his virus scanner would backtrack where that virus was built and burn and would flash fry their hard drive of the computer on which it was built, which was absolutely brilliant in my eyes. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Absolutely do so, Lazarus. I do keep a hard copy. I'm still a very much dinosaur. So when we look at it, this is my address book. Okay, we'll keep them on computer or on phone. I still work with, cardstock. I'm sure some of you remember these things. I have never had a power failure that has made these vanish. I've never had a virus get into my database and steal anything from it. I'm still more comfortable with pen and paper. As a matter of fact, this is where I'm writing the Return to Paradise, and then I transfer it on disk, right, and expand it from there. Yeah, I'm very much a dinosaur. I'm actually going to, as soon as I can find one, my other half actually knows how to use an abacus. So I'm going to talk to her and figure out how to use it again. I still would rather work with a calculator. Pen and paper. My preference is pen and paper, calculator, then computer. Because, well, frankly, I'm a dinosaur. The neat part of it, yeah, very much. Mind you, I told people a long time ago, like literally when I was a child, and I was researching dinosaurs, and I told people then that man walked the earth when the dinosaurs did. Not in modern form, but our ancestors walked the earth at the time the dinosaurs did. Now, what do we got here? Gotta bring that down so I can read what I'm looking at. The computer is not doing what it's supposed to. I think that did it. Sorry about the quiet there. Bingo. Greetings, little Katie. How you doing? The reality is, when I was a kid and I was studying dinosaurs, I actually told people mankind walked the earth when the dinosaurs were here. And everybody's telling me, no, that's not possible. They did not. Until about 2 years ago, I think, I caught a blurb where they found man-sized footprints in the mud amongst dinosaur footprints. Okay. From my standpoint, this is just normal. Okay. And the reality of it, yeah. Yeah. I absolutely, from my standpoint, modern technology does have its advantages. And like I told my other half, bearing in mind she's completely blind, technology does give her a sense of independence. And we have to realize technology has a place. I use technology to walk. I've got a cane. It's not high-tech technology, and I don't need a cane that'll dress itself. I used to ask them that. And the general consensus was quite literally, well, this is our belief. Okay? You're entitled to your belief. Nobody can be wrong with their opinion. And this is one of the things that brought it close to a friendship of mine years ago, is they told me flat out my opinion was wrong. No one's opinion can be wrong. The information they're working with, that they've drawn their opinion from, can absolutely be wrong. I caught wind this morning. I was just scanning through Facebook, and there's an article, and I didn't read into it, so I don't know what all was about it. But under the ice in Antarctica, they have uncovered a plane. Okay. Now, I don't know whose plane, I don't know what year it was from, but I will tell you, it looks like it was from back in the 40s or earlier, just from the little glimpse I had. And I'm no aircraft mech, unlike my father was. You know, this is why I tell people, you know, I've been asked so many times, well, why should we believe what you're saying? What proof do you have? What I'm talking about, I don't have proof of, period. And I'm not overly interested in doing the lab thing and having it proven for me. You know, this is just the reality behind it. Which is why when the whole COVID thing came out, I turned around and went, no, you're more than welcome to it. As a matter of fact, my ex and both of my kids ended up getting double vaccinated. I didn't get touched by it because I have yet to run into a medication that mankind has built that works well for me or even works remotely normally. You know, it's kind of like I had a toothache the other day. Okay, a couple of months back now. And I'll tell you, this is what's called stupid. Okay, I had a toothache. I cannot go to the doctor. I cannot go to the dentist. So I ended up taking 14,000 milligrams of painkiller. Okay, all within an hour. Okay, it worked. I haven't taken medication. I haven't taken painkillers since. But that kind of dosage will throw most people into some sort of a toxic shock. Okay. For me, it's just a normal way of life. But like I said, my body doesn't work normally per se. Which leads to the other question that people have asked. You know, where are you from? Well, where I'm from, Mom and Dad. Okay. Second generation Canadian. And that's all I worry about. The fact my body doesn't work quite the way other people's do doesn't matter from my end. It's kind of like technology doesn't work normally. But the reason I talk about the different things I've gone through is because hopefully I can give somebody a little bit of a heads up. I went bankrupt twice, but that book that I was talking about, okay, the Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, that is where the backbone started that brought me around to the understanding that I can control exactly what my finances are doing. Now, I do have to get over this idea. You know, I do have to get past this idea that I can financially at this point afford to help everybody. Okay. There's one person, and I will absolutely put this way. Most people I don't bother with their names. You know, most people I will not tell the name of who I dealt with. But there is a UFC fighter that I am doing everything I can with what limited resources I have. Okay. She goes by the name Sweet Maria. And I will absolutely continue to sponsor her with what I can without crippling myself. I've worked it into my financial availability. Okay. And as I told her, this is something I've always looked at. You know, picture, if you will, Now, Sweet Maria is just getting into it. She's just at the beginning of her career. But picture, if you will, if you're into watching boxing, how great would it be if you could say, I helped Cassius Clay get his career off the ground, even in a small way. Okay. It's like the way I'm looking at it, I'm in the middle of building. Now, I only made $3,600 roughly last month. But I've already got the working platform to build an actual recovery center. I'm not going to be building it on Quick Start. I'm not going to be building it on GoFundMe. Somebody tried to GoFundMe on my behalf a few years back. It didn't work at all for us. But I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Hard work and handling money properly. Okay. But I'm talking about big-time long-range plan. And it is one of those plans that if the money comes in properly, I will build it. Okay. I will end up building it. Will I ever turn it into a corporation? Not with modern corporation laws. Okay. Will I ever open a nonprofit organization? Not a prayer. The name is in itself. Business, nonprofit. I'm not going into business for nonprofit. But the profit, and the reason I had to put the prices of the books where I did is because I found with the cost of shipping, and much more importantly, well, that was the big one. But between the cost of printing and the cost of shipping, I would not have been able to even get another set done. Right? So I had to bring the prices up. Okay. In some cases. Now, I will be taking the profit. I've worked it out where I'll be able to pay for my word-of-mouth advertising, standard advertising, and put the money aside to build this empire. And yes, I call it an empire, but I will not be putting it into the hands of a board of directors that can fire me. I'm just not overly interested in it. Okay. So, from my standpoint, I've got a couple of people I'm helping, and right now I've got to be very cautious on how I do things because I've had to postpone them. But the reason I talk about this is this. When I was back in 1999, okay, so we're talking 25 years ago almost. Okay, I went bankrupt the first time. But get this, I went to a financial advisor. Somebody that was being paid to help me. They guided me into, they thanks, Wallet Moth. Hopefully I'm not that violent. This financial advisor directed me to go bankrupt on $6,000. Okay. The second time I went bankrupt, because I didn't learn a thing when I went bankrupt. They didn't teach me a thing on how to deal with it. Okay. And net result was 10 years later, I went bankrupt again on $14,000. Now, this, in my opinion, was criminal. It wasn't legally, it was fine. But the only people that make money when you go bankrupt is the people that are doing the bankruptcy work. Okay. You yourself don't get off well. The people you actually legitimately owe money to. Oh, we understood that. The reality is going bankrupt, if you can avoid it, and I have figured out how to avoid it, which is why when I ended up $20,000 in debt a few years back, I managed to pay the whole thing off. Currently, because I went and bought a car, I'm almost 40, but I know exactly how I'm going to clear it off. The unfortunate part is that when we look at it, my dad used to tell me, he used to say, never judge somebody's life until you've walked a mile in their shoes. Never even try and assess it. Okay, and the reality is, if I can point out the direction that people can make changes for, okay, by simply altering. You clear the clutter out of your hallways, and I will tell you, I mean in your physical hallways, you clear the clutter out of your hallways, your personal energy level will go up. The only problem with that, Joe, I will look at it on Sunday nights, okay, and see if I can. But I tried going live on Sunday nights with a complication in mind, and a lot of the people, and I do not intend on going into competition with anybody. I may go on Saturday night, okay. Sunday I probably won't. I might. It'll be one of the two, but I cannot go on the nights Monday to Friday because I work Monday to Friday. I work 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I can't go live on the weekday nights. But I will see if I can get in periodically. At this point, I don't have anything absolutely scheduled. Okay. But I'm still trying to work things out. I figured out, where are we here? No, that was the list of books I was working on. Just seeing if I've got it listed here. Somewhere around here, I've actually got a schedule of the different, stuff I'm working. Yeah, I've got a fan going. That's going to work. Move paper and the fan takes it all over the place. But no, I'm still working out exactly how to go about getting everything written, everything done. Right now, it is. But on the other hand, I get off at 10 o'clock, right? I get off at 10 p.m. And I've got all day until I go back to work at 3. But it's easier for me. It works out for everybody, really. I don't have to get up first thing in the morning. If I'm up until 2 or 3 in the morning, either writing or doing something else, it doesn't matter. I don't have to be up until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, until really 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it fits well for me. I'm usually up by like 6 o'clock in the morning anyway, primarily because of the amount of work I'm trying to do. But the way I figure it, if you plan your day out, like right now, I've worked out my time in the office during the week where I can literally write 14 books at the same time while I'm editing 4 others. Okay. Now, these are, and when I talk about the same time, I mean literally on every day of the week, I'm getting information written down, storylines written down, or research done. When I talk about research, I'm talking about pulling information out of my head. Yeah, 7 and the funny thing, now you do 7 in the morning till 4 at night, I'm presuming, Lazarus. If you're not a morning person, well, that could be a little, oh, that's how you work. Yeah, okay, that would make sense. Yeah, if you're not a morning person and coffee affects you, it's great. Okay, coffee's weird for me. I could drink a pot of coffee and turn around and go to sleep. On the flip side, the monster drinks you can buy, the ones that are supposed to be really good, supposed to be energy driven. I can drink a monster drink and in less than 10 minutes be out like a light. That's just the reality of it from my standpoint. Now, we are getting right down to the tail end here. Like I said, I usually run a pretty tight schedule. As soon as I get done here, as soon as we log off here, then I have to go make an errand. And because it's Saturday, one of the parts of that errand is I go out for breakfast. If I can afford it, I go. Yes, I just finished saying I'm cutting it tight. But this is the thing. When you take a look at your income, okay, 1%, $1 out of every 100, put aside for mad money. That is money so that you personally can go for coffee, can go for breakfast. Okay, but it's $1 out of every 100. Now, yes, even if you're making less than $100 on a paycheck, still take that 1%. Okay, and the reason for it is because it changes the feel of the money from I'm working to pay my bills to I'm working and paying my bills. Okay, the neat little part about it is once you get that sorted around, your feeling of success, and you're the only one that can do it, which by the way is one of those neat little books I'm working on. Okay, it's one of those books on what I've got an actual formula laid out that will work for everybody, whether you're a pauper or a multimillionaire. I've got a formula worked out that will work for you to become successful in your eyes. Okay, call it, if you will, the second step in believing yourself. Okay, it'll be another book about the same size. Maybe I take a look at these two just quickly. Believing Yourself is how long? They're short books. Believing Yourself is 22 pages. Okay. Believe in Your Business is, it's a monster book. Believe in Your Business is 26. So when I come out with the one that I'm currently working on, which is literally how to be successful. Okay. And what I'm looking at calling it is literally Believe in Your Success and Follow Your Dreams. So there are 12 books in that series that I'll be writing. And the reason I keep bringing up this 12, in the numerology I work with, which is base 12, 12 is the number of ultimate wisdom. Okay. Now, with this in mind, we have just hit the 10 o'clock mark. I'm going to tie things off, let you guys get on with your day. And thank you so much for joining me. I am really happy you did. Quite frankly, I'm surprised I'm getting as many people. Very happy you joined me. And I will be back again. I will look into a nighttime appearance periodically. It certainly won't be during the week. Okay, because I work nights. Unless at some point I end up being up and going, I'm going on. But I will be back. And, I'll keep this going. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.